and the others called it Calaris and says that the Phocians founded it then. If they founded it since they were Greeks, then why do they use two names for the same city? When the Phocians settled in Aleria, did they not engage in other activities than piracy? They did not engage in other activities than piracy and harassment. They plundered the neighboring countries, mostly the Racine coast of Italy, which was developed, rich, and closest to them. Since they also attacked Carthaginian possessions in Sardinia, the Racines agreed with the Carthaginians to get rid of the attack. They prepared a joint fleet of 60 ships on the southern coast of today's Tuscany. Upon learning on these preparations, the Phocians set sail with as many ships to destroy the Racine navy. Herodotus says that Phocians sailed before the Racines in the Sea of Sardon, where they had a battle. That were the greatest sea battle of that time. He then says that the Greeks achieved Cadmo's victory, which is the same as Pier's victory. But judging by the events, Greeks lost that battle. Of their 60 ships, 40 remained motionless at the site of the battle, and only 20, less damaged, were able to sail to Corsica. The Racines pulled the surviving Greeks ashore with 40 wrecked ships near the city of Aguila, later Caere, and the modern Cervetri, and killed them all there. Pulling the Greeks from the wrecked ships to the shore tells us that the battle was fought along the coast itself, otherwise it would not have been possible to do so. This event took place in modern Tyrrhenian Sea, which the Herodotus time was called the Sardon Sea or Serbian Sea. The Greeks called them Tyrrhenians and later the Latins Tyrrhenians, but in addition to the Russians, they also called themselves Serbs, so that they also called their sea that way. Some modern publishers of Herodotus try to cover up the place of the battle by cutting the reading, and thus the fact that Tyrrhenian Sea was called the Serbian Sea. But the facts are stubborn. However, I needed to review all the editions of Herodotus which I knew existed in order to find cut parts and establish the truth. The English version of 1584 helped me a lot, and the 1987 University of Chicago edition. With all this in mind, it becomes clear why they complained to Herodotus that he was malicious and that he was not a good Hellen. The Racines did not move from Judea to Italy due to some evil years and shortages, as Herodotus showed, but they left as conquerors when the Serbian tribes of Asia Minor were in a state of strength and power, led by one great military leader. They took over after Crete the thalassocracy on Pelag, and it is said that it was the people who held supremacy at sea for almost a century. Bohardius says that they then settled in Peloponnese, Caria, and Italy. Raceni also took part in Lydian thalassocracy, since they are from Judea. Ovid says that the Racines that they are Meons. Meonia was a name given to the country in Asia Minor, which was later known as Phrygia, or Man. The Bible always takes into account the place of origin of people who moved to another country. This is also reflected in Josephus, who adheres to the Jewish tradition. He connects Tarshish with Cilicia, but Cilicia also includes some areas that were under Lydians. This leads us to the idea that a good part of Racine who moved to Italy, if not all, was from Cilicia. Hence the name of the city Tartes in Spain, which was built by Racines. One may ask, what was the real name of the city Tarsus in Cilicia, Tars or Ras? We know that the Greeks changed Serbian name Rashani to Trakes. We can accept that the origin of Racine is connected with Cilicia, but not Tarshish from the Old Testament with the city of Tarsus in Cilicia. because in Hebrew and all Semitic languages the city of Tarsus is written as Tarsus, not Tarshish. The Russians controlled most of the African coast on Pelag and had settlements in present-day Tunisia and Spain, including city of Tartesh, which Stephen of Byzantium calls Tarsei, near Pillars. The prophet Ezekiel says that the Tarshish are rightly considered traders of various riches and lists various metals as goods, with which they traded. It was Iberia that was very rich in metals that the Russians distributed all over the shores of Pelag. Aristotle speaks of Iberia and says that the Phoenicians came to that country and found so much silver they could not take it all away. The Greeks called the Phoenicians first the Cretans and then the Ludeans. Bohardius says, people who were called Phoenicians, and that name still means Mesians or Kari. Phoenix in Greek means reddish, sunburned, like the sailors on Pelag. Phoenicia was the name given to the coast of Syria and Palestine, where there were cities, migratory Serbs from Asia Minor. When the Greeks talk about Phoenicians, in most cases it does not refer to inhabitants of Phoenicia. In the time of King Solomon of Judah, the king Hiram of Sur, Tarshish ships sailed the Red Sea and brought ivory from India. When they talk about Pelag, the Jews talk about the Tarshish Sea, and in the market in Sur, they are the main metal traders. In translation 72, under Tarshish is placed the Cardada, which the Romans called Carthaga. However, this one city was founded around 840 BC, so it is in no case could have played the role of Tarshish in the name of Solomon 2 centuries before its founding. Arab writers by Tarshish mean Tunis. This, in fact, only confirms Russians present in African coast. In the area of Tunisia and Old Carthaga, the Frusi, French, found before the First World War scars with Russian inscriptions called Margine. Margine marked land holdings. That means that Russians ruled the country not just by being present as traders. The Freusians tried to show the installation of Russian tombstones with inscriptions in the 2nd century BC. That this is in time of Roman Empire. This setting is not sustainable because in that case the inscriptions would not be Russian, but in Latin. The inscriptions are much older. The mentioned frogs marked the borders of the estates. Mentioned Mergine marked the borders of the estates of the Dardan tribe and were placed in memory of god Tin, as stated in inscription. Diodorus says that this of Russians. The Russians expelled the Phoenicians expelled the Phocians from Corsica and founded the city of Nicaea at the time when they were masters of the sea and held the islands opposite the Tyrrhenian Sea. They were masters of the cities of Corsica for a time. The Corsicans paid taxes in grapes, wax, and honey. Those products are abundant on the island. In old days, the Russians owned a large territory and founded many important cities. They had a strong navy and were masters of the sea for a long time. The sea along Italy is named after them. They perfected the organization of a land army. They invented the saltinga, a small trumpet for military use, which they called the Tyrrhenian trumpet. They also introduced signs of dignity, lictors, an ivory chair, sella curulis among the Romans, and purple toga. They invented peristoa, peristyle literally translated, around the pillars, that is, a staircase, a porch with pillars. with ornaments all around the building on inside out. Rassens raised literature, natural science, and theology to a high level. Giuseppe Micali, in his work Italy Before Roman Domination, published in French language in Paris 1824, says of Rasseni that the oldest Etruscan name is Rasseni or Traseni, on Latin Rassenorum or Trasenorum, which the Greeks turned into Tirsenon or Tyrenon, and then explained it to mean Tirsis, tower, and hence Tyrrhene.